Hello, authors, and welcome back to So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? I'm your host, Wendy Jo Cerna, and I am excited to venture into the second season of the podcast. In Season 1, I took you along with me through the process of writing, editing, and publishing my third novel, Solbakken, A Tale of Generations. I'm currently in the thick of getting my fourth novel, The Sabotage Scroll, finished up and published. But enough about me. Season 2 is going to be all about my fellow Christian authors who are launching their books. We're going to chat about the journey they took from the inception of their books to holding the finished products in their hands. So hop on board for Season 2 of So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? I'm convinced you're going to find both inspiration and practical knowledge to help you obey the call of God on your life to create the book He has given you to create. Hey, if the author and finisher of all things told you to write a book, He believes that you can. And so do I. So come on, let's write. Hello, authors, and welcome back to So God Told You to Write a Book, Now What? We are in episode 4 of Season 2, and my guest today is Tina Gollings. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about Tina. She is a believer, a mother, classical teacher, and novelist. She is the current vice president of Northwest Christian Writers Association. She has been a Cascade Award winner for an unpublished science fiction novel. Okay, I have questions about that. Children's nonfiction book, and most recently received second place for her middle grade novel, Soul House. Tina also recently published a story in a cyberpunk anthology called Eon City Burnout, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But you also have a children's book coming out next summer 2026. Very cool. She enjoys illustration and has produced line drawings for several novels. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you again, Wendy. It's really exciting to be here and to have a chance to talk about the new book and the journey and all of it.
Yeah. So Eon City Burnout. It is a cyberpunk anthology. First of all, what does cyberpunk mean?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that. So cyberpunk is a subgenre of science fiction.
Okay.
And it kind of explores like high-tech, low-life in dystopian societies is kind of what it is. You can think about, like people often think about augmented humans, cyborgs, that sort of thing also. Yeah. But it can also be, well, I don't know. There's, yeah. So that's the gist of it, really.
That's the gist of it. And it's an anthology, which means you are part of a group of writers. And how many writers are in this particular book?
This one, I think, was 9 authors, if I'm remembering right, 9 authors and 11 stories.
Yeah. I read the book. It's very intriguing. It keeps you going. And what's fun is that everybody's a good writer. But tell us how did you even start on this journey, and how long ago was that?
Okay, good questions. Okay, so this is the part that I love, and like my advice for anybody that wants to write out there is that they network, that you meet other writers, you make friendships, you make relationships, you join critique groups, and you do all of those things because you never know what connection will happen and where that will lead. And this was sort of one of those that actually Kim Bandel, who also is a member at NCWA, she told me about this amazing conference called the Realm Makers Conference for fantasy and science fiction writers. And I wanted to go, but I didn't know anybody there. So she introduced me to somebody that she knew, and I ended up being roommates with Becky Dean, who is also a published author. And Becky introduced me to her mastermind group, and they needed some more women in there. And she said, do you want to join? And I said, yes, of course. And so, that's how I got connected with this mastermind group. We would meet we still meet once a month. And at first, when we met, we would talk about our stories. And if we had we called it the hot seat. And you were
Okay.
on the hot seat. If you were struggling with something or if you needed input, everybody would give you their input on whatever it was you needed help with. But I'm making a long story long here, but
That's okay.
three of our members of our mastermind group ended up doing a crossover novel with each other,
Hmm.
and they really enjoyed it. Enjoyed. I think they handed it off. One of them would write a chapter, and then they'd hand it off to the next person, and they would write the next chapter based on what the person before them
Yeah.
did. And so much fun doing that they said, you know what if we did an anthology with our entire group, with all of the masterminds.
Hmm.
So like I said, I think that's 9 of us. I'd have to go back and count. It's not terrible. So this was the fun part because all of us thought it was a great idea,
Yep.
and we got to build the world together. So once a month we would get together. We'd say, okay, where do we want this to take place? Like, what
Yeah.
do we want this? What is this world going to be like? And everybody just threw out different ideas until we kind of landed where we wanted. We wanted kind of like Star Wars-esque robots, that sort of thing. We talked about how was this society, what was it like to be poor? What was it like to be rich in this society?
Mhm.
That sort of thing. And we just, everybody threw out their ideas and we took the ones that we liked and ran with it. After that, Steve Raza, who is also a pretty prolific author, wrote for us the chapter 1 or the first story called The Breach. And
Yeah.
this was our inciting incident. So we
Okay.
wanted to have like the same world, one mass conspiracy going on and one inciting incident that
Yeah.
all of our characters and all of our stories had to deal with. And so Steve wrote that. We all read it. Now we had our world built, we had our inciting incident. And after that, we all each just took it and ran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
So you
basically that.
each had like a character who is somewhere in the middle of this cataclysmic event in
Right.
Eon City. And
Mm-hmm.
and then you just wrote from their perspective somewhere along the timeline of that event. Is that how that
Yes.
went? But
Yeah.
you also have
Exactly.
some crossover characters that sort of weave through. So how did you
Right.
decide on those things?
Okay. I have to tell you, like it's just amazing how it all happened because some of those crossovers they weren't exactly planned.
Okay.
I mean, we wanted to, like where we thought we could cross over, we tried to, or we
Yeah.
did. And I have a feeling that in book 2 we'll do more of that.
Yes.
Um,
Okay. So hold that thought. Book two is coming, people. So like I read through everything. I loved it. It's a great fun ride of reading. But at the end, I'm like, wait a minute. I got lots of unresolved issues here. So I'm so glad to hear book two is coming. Yes.
yes.
Okay. So I'm sorry I interrupted. So you gathered those things, those crossovers where you could, and
Mm-hmm.
then how did you just brought it back to the mastermind and said, here's what I wrote?
Okay, well, okay, this is another actually process. We're talking about process. This is
Yes,
another
we are.
interesting thing that we did. We had a master document, and what we all did was we put in a little summary of our story
Okay.
in that master document this was a story world or story or sorry a world building document as well. So if we needed to see, oh yeah, what did we say the vehicles were like?
Yeah.
Go back to that world building document, double check. Oh yeah, that's right. It was this or that. And yeah, so in there was a summary of each of our stories. So we could go and see what everybody else was doing and could kind of decide where can my story overlap with this story.
Yeah.
So that it was helpful to have one document that we were all using and editing to kind of help us
Yeah.
along.
So did you get to pick where along the timeline you were going to be in the event?
Yeah. Yeah. So, the way that it came together, we just did what we wanted. We,
Okay.
this was like, talk about playing as a writer. We
Yeah.
played. We built this world together, which was so much fun to do. And then there were no rules.
Hmm.
There were no rules. We just pick, we got to decide who are we going to, are we going to go with somebody in the underground? Are we going to go with, you name it, we got to pick it. So,
Okay.
and in the end, when we were organizing the stories together, we did it chronologically.
I
So
see. Yeah.
if your story had like, so there was one story that happened a little bit before the sighting incident. So that one went first, and then so on and so forth. And so some of them do overlap on the timeline, but based on where the story began is where it was placed in the book.
Yeah. And how did you land on your specific character and the bonsai trees?
Oh, okay. You know, I am forgetting the name of the book, and it is embarrassing that I cannot remember the name of it, but I had just finished reading. Oh, I just remember the name. Okay, somebody out there is going to get mad at me for this, but the something about electric sheep. You know what the one I'm talking about? Oh, okay,
Oh,
I remember it.
do androids dream of electric sheep?
There it is. That's the
Okay.
one. Okay, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? It
Yeah.
is a classic. I loved the story, classic science fiction, and the gentleman in that story was obsessed with having an animal. And I'm not, go read the book. It's great, a
Yeah.
great story. So I wanted my character, I was like, you know what? I want a character to be obsessed with something.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of what started my idea.
Okay.
And I will tell you, I had a lot of fun writing my robots and
Yes. They are
my
fun.
yes, and in book two, I'm going to take that and run with it even more.
Okay.
So I'm going to have lots of non-human perspectives, robots
Fun.
thinking and talking and doing things in the next story. But so one of my characters is named Bar Pro, and it's a coffee maker.
Yep.
And of course, I'm from Seattle, so coffee is a big deal. And I'm a teacher, so coffee is a big deal to me. Well, the funny thing is, sometimes we'll take coffee orders for each other at my school. And I just noticed that all of a sudden, everybody, the only thing that they wanted was an Americano.
Mm.
Americano, 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 no matter who I asked. And I'm like, you guys are like, the world of coffee is available to you.
Yes.
You're telling me Americano all the time? And so that kind of became a running joke in my story that
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
character only wants Americanos and the poor bar pro just wants to make some fancy latte. Yeah, so that's where that was inspired by, just life inspires everything.
Yep.
And the rest, as for the rest, I I can't really tell you, just so, inspiration from so many different aspects of life all came, coming together. People that I know that are dealing with loss and the prospect of loss
Yep.
of loved ones. So that was on my mind. So that came in. My character has a loss that he's grieving, that
Mm-hmm.
dealing with. And so, just all the little different things that are always in our minds that we're touching in our daily lives kind of came out in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of bots and robots and cyber stuff in there, but the themes that you're dealing with are very human. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
they're very relatable. That everybody comes in a little bit of different angle, but it's fun to have those very human things thread through there, and they touch you as you go. Different stories, and I laughed out loud a few times. There's some good writing in there from each one of you. I really enjoyed it. So, did you have like a word count length that
Hmm.
you were shooting for?
Yes,
Okay.
we did. So we were supposed to stick to something around 8,000 words,
Mm-hmm.
but it could be between 8 and 10,000.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's pretty uniform. Not exactly uniform, but you could see, okay, there were some limitations on how far you could go
Yes.
with, yeah. Okay, so you get everything written, and then what happens? Like, who takes this
Oh,
to a publisher, or how does that all work?
okay. So, so you're asking me about parts that I wasn't fully involved with, but I can tell you what I know.
Yeah.
So what we did, so we have the authors. The interesting thing about us as a mastermind group is that we're not all, I guess, at the same level, or at least at the same, maybe not the same level. It's not the right way to put it. We're not, we don't all have the same like experience level
Right.
is what to
Mm-hmm.
say. We have some people that are prolific and they've written a lot and they're indie published. And then we have other people that are traditionally published and
Mm-hmm.
written a lot. And then we have others that have written less and are, slower writers. So and everybody in between.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different well, I don't know about skill, but a lot of different experience
Yeah.
levels amongst us. And so what we did is we had those of us that had the most experience editing and producing quality, quality books. They were our editors.
Okay.
So we had Steve Raza, and he writes full time now. Steve does. He's an excellent writer. If you don't know him, you should look
How do you
him up.
spell the last name on that?
Raza is Rzasa, Raza, and also Becky. Becky is she's an indie author. She's also she's traditionally published. She has in the sci-fi category under B.L. Dean, and then also she does travel romances, which are just wonderful reads. Like if you like travel romance, I highly recommend Becky for that. So for Eon City, she's published as B.L. Dean because it's science fiction.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Becky and Steve between them really have a lot of experience doing what they do and editing. So they edited for us, and they kind of made sure that everything was cohesive, that there were no inconsistencies in our story world and that sort of thing. They checked for all of those things for us. And Steve was the mastermind behind the the interior of the book.
Yeah.
The design. But he's, like I said, he's an amazing writer, and he's a very prolific indie published author. So this is not new to him. It wasn't his first rodeo. And then of course the cover, does it say who did the cover? I can find the name. Oh, there we go. Jeneth. That's right. Jeneth Lead did the cover for us. And as you can see, it's an amazing cover.
Yeah,
So
it's a beautiful cover.
Isn't it a beautiful cover?
Yeah,
She did such a great job on that. So we hired her.
Yeah.
And, we split all the costs of everything. We split between us. And maybe most importantly, we did a Kickstarter for this book to help cover the costs.
Okay.
That was even the Kickstarter was so much fun to do with a group of people. One of the things we did for the Kickstarter was we each recorded like a little snippet of a little script.
Yeah.
And we put it together as one reel.
Yeah.
So it had all the authors speaking out this script, and it was just a lot of fun to do. The whole book, the whole thing from start to finish was like, honestly, I've never had so much fun. It makes me never want to write alone ever.
Right? Yeah. I know. So, because sometimes writing is just so solo, and I have a theater arts background, and sometimes I really miss just the levels of collaboration that have to happen in order for one product to come out at the end, and everybody brings their area of expertise. And by the time you're done, I mean, I just do what I do, but they all do the stuff I can't do. And when you're done, you have this beautiful end piece of art that you can only do through collaboration. And so, yeah, I'm a little envious of your writing, that experience. It sounds amazing.
It was amazing, and I highly recommend. I mean, I know this is a little unique because we built the world together and we have the same incident, and that's not obvious. Not sure if I can think of an anthology that does that. Maybe there is, but so that I think was unique. But it also, like I said, it was part of the joy of writing this. And of course, the stories we did it was solo. That was alone, but
yeah, of course. At some point, you do have to write by yourself. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so your mastermind group, so we're talking to a Christian demographic here. Are they all believers, or do you have a mixture of people in that group?
We are all believers.
Okay.
In that group.
How did that come about? Was that a very intentional thing?
Yeah, it was intentional. I mean, partly because we met through Christian writing organizations like Northwest Christian Writers Association in Seattle and the Realm Makers conference community. That's how we all met. So because we met through Christian writing groups, we're all Christians.
Okay. And so is Realm Makers a Christian conference?
Yeah, Realm Makers is a Christian science fiction and fantasy writers conference. It's grown to be pretty large. And actually last year they had a combination. They invited in the Christian gaming community.
Oh, fun.
So like Larry the Cucumber was there and,
Yes.
fun
Cool.
and made it more like almost like, Comic-Con feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sci-fi writer crowd, we like to have fun like that. So
Yeah. Where is it held? Does it change locations or?
it does sometimes change locations, but more often than not, it's in St. Louis.
Oh,
Yeah, and this year it will be in St. Louis as well. So,
and is it a summer conference or what time of
uh-huh.
year?
Yeah, normally in the past it's been in July. This year it's going to be at the end of June. And actually we're planning to do the Eon City cover reveal at the conference this year.
Mm,
Yeah.
very fun.
Yeah.
So you're already working on stories for book two.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
we've already begun brainstorming
Yeah.
and talking together where do we want this next book to go, and we're at the stage in book two where we're putting up our story summaries on that planning document, and
Yeah.
they're due in the spring.
Exciting. So you set your own deadlines for your group, X
Hmm.
number, whatever you have to have this ready by, well, which is kind of nice to have some
Yeah.
accountability and motivation
Yes.
to keep you writing.
Yeah,
Excellent.
all of those things.
So from start to finish, how long did that book take to get into your hands?
Oh man, how long was it? Well, I know I spent the bulk of the summer writing it, and then it didn't come out. It was probably about a year, I would
Yeah,
say, from start to finish with the process.
that's
Yeah.
pretty great. That's not super long.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
nice. But you only have to write 8 to 10,000 words too,
Yeah, it's true.
which is very helpful. Let me ask you this. Did you always want to be a writer, or is this kind of a new thing in your life?
uh, that is a great question. I pretty much knew I wanted to be a writer from the second grade.
Oh,
Yeah. And I teach second grade now. But
yes.
yeah, I've been looking to see if they are still doing it, but there was a Washington State had something called Young Writers or Young Authors
Hmm.
conference. And it was a conference for students, for like elementary students, I think, to write a book. And they could go to a conference, just like how we would go to a conference, and they would get to meet real authors
Mm.
and get to share their book at this conference. And I was really excited by it. And I don't remember what book I wrote now in that second grade year, but I didn't get chosen. I got my first rejection at the age.
Ah, tender age. Yeah. That's
I didn't get into the conference. And so the next year in third grade, I thought, well, got to play to the public. And so I chose to write about a character that was already in existence. I don't know if you remember Ziggy.
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
Really, honestly, I don't really know much about that character Ziggy, but my third grade teacher had a calendar, a Ziggy calendar.
Uh-huh.
I wrote the book Ziggy Gets a Pet. I don't remember the plot at all, but that book got me into the conference, and
Oh.
I got to skip my regular school, got to go into the conference, read my story, and it was quite an experience, like an unforgettable experience. And that year, I was also writing for me. So
Hmm.
I remember writing that third grade year. Do you remember Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was so frustrated that Wile E. Coyote would never catch that annoying Roadrunner. He was
Right.
mean and he would tease him, and I really wanted that Roadrunner to get caught. So the only way I could see to make that happen was to write it myself. So
Oh, there you go.
I wrote a book where the Wile E. Coyote, the last page of that book is Wile E. Coyote turning that rotisserie and cooking up that road. And it was justice at last. And yeah, so that's the first book that I actually remember the plot
Right.
that I wrote. But so it's writing, and actually from the third grade, I also kept a journal regularly.
Wow.
From third grade all the way through college, I have just books and books. I wrote constantly all the time. And in high school, I kind of, like most high schoolers, I kind of thought I would be a poet. So I wrote a
Yeah.
lot of poetry in high school. And then something happened in college. I all of a sudden I thought, well, this is the real world now, and real people don't write.
Hmm.
So my young adult years, although I was starting to write a dystopian novel actually in college, but I didn't know that that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
Like I was
Yeah.
so it was so like I didn't know that was happening, but and it was just funny. But yeah, so it wasn't until my 30s actually
Yeah.
I really decided, okay, actually keep writing. It's just something that I keep doing it. I need to do it. And so, it was a decision I made in my 30s when I
In your
realized
30s.
people can be writers.
Yeah. Imagine that. All right. Let's see. Where are we? Let me see. Let me look at my list of questions. Keep on track, Wendy Jo. So I'm curious, why science fiction? I mean, is this connected? Like, is this just something that the Lord put in you, or why science fiction?
That's another really good question. And I'm not totally sure that I know the answer to that.
Hmm.
I can tell you that along the way, a substitute teacher in the 6th grade that was probably reading this book herself, but she read the book Ender's Game
Hmm.
by Orson Scott Card out loud to our class, and I was captivated.
Yeah.
And it was all over for me at that point as far
Hmm.
as genre goes, as far as science fiction. But also, a little bit before that, the book that actually made me into a real reader was Anne of Green Gables. And
Hmm.
I still to this day think Ellen Montgomery is one of the most beautiful writers I've ever
Hmm.
read.
Yeah.
And she's one that I will write down lines that she wrote because
Yeah.
she's amazing.
Yeah.
And she is a fantasy writer.
Hmm.
Ellen Montgomery is a fantasy writer. She wrote about, I mean, even just in the whimsicalness of
Yeah.
Anne
Yeah.
Gables, and she's always talking about fairies and changelings,
Yep.
etc. And she did actually, Ellen Montgomery did write books about a fairy change. She had a fairy changeling character in one of. She was a fantasy author, and
Yeah.
it comes out in Anne of Green Gables. And so
Yep.
it was always just a genre I was drawn to. And I don't know why, but it's also
Yeah.
what gets in my
Yeah.
head. That's what wants to come out. It's what I like to read. It's what I like to watch. It's what I like.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
hard to know why,
I
but
know.
yeah.
Why did you make me like this? That's the question. So you mentioned a few authors that you really like. Do you have any Christian fantasy authors that you follow closely, or?
Oh, that's you know what? Not really actually. For fantasy, I read more science fiction than I do fantasy.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So, most recently, like I said, there's Becky BL. She publishes under BLD, and she has a really
Yeah.
great science fiction trilogy. And yeah, there's so many out there. Honestly, the ones that I follow the most closely are the Realm Makers
Hmm.
authors. I mean, the people in my mastermind group, of course, are writing really great stuff, but there's so many other authors that are also producing amazing science fiction
Yeah.
out there. So, and fantasy. I just don't read fantasy as frequently. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Lovely. So as you were writing, and you've written several different things, so you have a children's book coming out in
mm-hmm.
2026. Is this something you've been working on for a while, or what's the story behind that?
Okay, that one is another one that's kind of near and dear to my heart because in my early 30s when I thought about becoming an author, I didn't want to tell anybody. Like I was I was thinking I was crazy for even considering the idea of trying to write books.
Hmm.
But I felt at that time that it was what God wanted me to do, and so I said, "Okay, I'm going to do it." But I was terrified.
Hmm.
And when I say terrified, I mean it. I was terrified. I didn't want to tell anybody that I was even thinking about it. I didn't want to go to any like Northwest Christian Right. I was scared to death to even step through the doors. And so I did that. I jumped that hurdle. And, that's what we have to do. We have to
Yeah.
grow, the uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's part of the deal. But I would never have voluntarily gone to a conference, a writing conference, because I'm telling you, I know it might be hard to believe, but I really was terrified.
No, I can believe it.
Really. So I wrote the first thing that I wrote in my early 30s was this children's book.
Hmm.
I'd gone to a candlelight service in San Diego when when I was visiting my in-laws, and we were walking back to the car, and this story, almost like from start to finish, just popped into my head. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
about this character, Little Flame. And so I couldn't sleep. You know how it is when you have something in your head that needs to come.
Yes.
So I got up and I wrote the entire story out. And and then I don't know how I found it, but I sent it off to the Oregon Christian Writers Conference,
Yeah.
the Cascade contest.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about contests. I knew nothing about writing. I knew, like, I don't, honestly, I didn't even know that that organization existed. So I'm not sure how I found that even. I'm not even sure how I knew to send it to a contest, but I did, and it finaled.
Wow.
Became a finalist. It forced me to go
Mm.
to the conference. If it hadn't if it hadn't finaled, I don't know when I would have become brave enough to
Mm-hmm.
walk into a conference. So I went, and of course, conferences are amazing, and I learned so much. And again, I got just that much more comfortable in the writing world. And so that book just really, it's a special book to me, and I wanted to see the light of day.
Yeah.
So, and I have a good friend who's a fine artist. She's a painter she lives on Vashon Island, and
Yeah.
illustrations for me. And again, a collaborative project is so much fun.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I'm really proud of that one. This story, I think it's old truths made new. So it's
Mm-hmm.
timeless. It's about God and about the Christmas season, really, told in a story that you haven't heard before.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I was going for with that one. So
Yeah. Can you tell us the title, or is there a title yet?
it's called Little Flame, Big Light.
Little Flame, Big Light.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds intriguing. I'll
Yeah.
look forward to seeing that. That sounds wonderful. And it's been a common theme as I've interviewed authors recently that most of us are terrified.
Yeah.
And specifically we're terrified to go connect with other authors. Like
Mm-hmm.
just showing up to Northwest Christian Writers has been a hurdle for everybody I talk to. Like, why
Mm-hmm.
is that? I mean, we're all grown adults. It's not like it's kindergarten, and yet there's something intimidating about stepping through those doors and saying, okay, I actually am committed to this, and this is part of who I am, and I do want to know more, and so this is what I need to do. But then you find out it's a lovely group of people, and they're all so encouraging, Yeah, so, but why we get this fear? Like, so how did you, so you said you did a little bit of step by step overcoming the fear and also sort of owning that I am a writer.
Mm-hmm.
I am an author. Did you have specific scriptures or God moments that helped you get over some of those hurdles?
Nothing specific, but I mean, I think, just having scripture in you to come out
Yes.
when you need it at the moments that you need it,
Yeah.
just remembering that God is bigger, that God can do more than you can imagine, that God tells us not to worry. He knows what we need before we ask him, that he gives us our daily bread. He gives us not next week's bread, but he gives us what we need when we need it. Just
Mm-hmm.
all those truths all together at the right time, at the right place. And how he just has a way of encouraging us along when we need it
Yeah.
in various ways. And so he just showed up when I needed him most,
Mm-hmm.
to put one of those verses in my mind, or to have a song come on the radio right when I
Yeah.
needed to hear those words, or that sort of thing.
Yep.
Just all along the way, showing me that really this journey is it's my journey, but it's his journey, and he's got it, and he's in control. There's no way I could have found my mastermind group without him.
Right.
The way that all came about and came together,
Mm-hmm.
and so many other things as well. It's just he's the master storyteller,
Yeah.
writing the bigger story.
Yeah.
I have a lot of gratitude and just awe for the way that he weaves it all together
Yeah.
so seamlessly.
It is. I just interviewed Susie Crosby, my last episode, and she has a children's book, but she also has a couple of devotionals. So I picked up one of them, and one of them is called Lighthearted, and it's sort of about processing a lot of negative emotions that we come across and the scriptures and the promises that are available to us to just hear from God when we have some of those emotions. And so a couple days ago, I was feeling this sort of sense of hopelessness about situation in my life. So I thought, I'll bet Susie has something to say about this. So I opened up, and she has it listed by emotion. So I'm like, oh, hopelessness. Let's go right there. She had it listed. She said the word that she was emphasizing was the word able, and she had the scripture from Ephesians 3:20 that Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly beyond all we ask, think, or imagine. And she was emphasizing that, God is not short on resources or abilities to, connect all the dots and power and skill and all the things. And she said she had a friend who loved this verse so much that she set an alarm on her phone every day at 3:20 in the afternoon. It goes off to remind her that he is well able. So I thought, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank you, Susie, for writing that down. And then I opened up a video from another friend of mine who sends me videos all the time, which I don't always open. But this one was all about, it was actually Greg Laurie talking about setting up a crusade down in Utah. They've been asked to come there because of the events that have happened recently, because so many people are hurting and confused and anxious. And he said, it takes us years to set up a crusade. But we felt like the Lord said, say yes to this and do it in November. And then he said, so this is way too big for us and way too hard for us. So I want you to set your alarms on your phone for 3:20, which I immediately knew why he was saying that. And I started laughing and he goes, because of the verse in Ephesians 3:20 that says, now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we ask, think, or imagine. And I thought, Lord, like you told me once and it was great, but then you told me twice, like the exact same thing. Like you say, he just shows up right when you need him, right with the voice that you need, whether it's a song or a devotional or a scripture, or it was so encouraging. So I text Susie and told her, I'm like, your devotional hit me right between the eyes, and then God hit me again between the eyes. I love that. I love that. He's so faithful and so good.
Yes.
If you were talking to young authors, even elementary school kids like you were, telling them, what would be the advice that you would give them if they were aspiring authors or people like my age who just didn't start until recently? Do you have tidbits of advice to say how to encourage people to say, yeah, you actually can do this?
Well, I've actually already had a student writing
Really?
a book. Yes, isn't that funny? Different people, all of our stories are written so uniquely.
Yeah.
And it's okay that our stories don't match up the way that somebody else's story looks. And so that's what I try to help my students to see, is that your story, your path doesn't have to be the same as anybody else's. And I don't know if you know Debbie Maycomer. She's another local writer.
I do know who she is.
She actually couldn't read until the 5th grade.
Really?
Yeah. And she had teachers that told her, you won't ever be able to do. I think she told a teacher once that she thought it might be fun to write. And that teacher thinks, oh, I'm so sorry, sweetheart. You're never going to be able to do that. Because, that teacher saw the real limitations that she had not being able to read until the 5th grade. And you can imagine what goes along with that. But she grew up. She wrote I don't know a ton of books, and is on the bestseller list and all the things. And yeah, so I mean, this is the thing. If it's what you're supposed to do, you won't miss the path.
Yeah.
The path might look different than others, but God knows how to herd us to get us where we should be. And we don't know his purposes for having us on the path, but we can trust in his sovereignty, and we can trust in his plan, that whatever that path is going to look like for us is going to be good. And he's going to use it for good, for our good, for the good of others, in whatever ways he has, up his, I wanted to say galactic sleeve, I mean, he's so big, galaxy doesn't even do it, he has purposes that we don't know. And our job is just to be faithful. So I would say, if that is what he's calling you to do, just do it. I don't know how you feel, but I think of everything I've done in my life, that decision to say I'm going to be a writer was the most faith exercising choice I've ever made. Talk about a leap of faith, because you don't know where it's going to take you. You don't know if you're going to fail. You don't know what success will look like. There's so many unknowns, and it's, I think, the perfect place to put your faith to the test. Do you trust God in all
Yeah.
circumstances? You know?
Yep. That's
Anyway.
very good. That's very good. I think it's also the part of writing is that once you get it out on the paper and you actually publish it, it's a very vulnerable place to be.
Mhm.
Like, because it's like
Oh
putting
yeah.
your heart out for the world to examine and critique and love or hate or whatever they want to do with it. But it, like you say, it is a huge leap of faith to say, all right, first of all, I'm going to obey what I
Mhm.
think you're telling me to do. But then I'm also going to trust that once it's done, out it goes
Yeah.
to accomplish whatever it is that he desires for it to accomplish. And you don't know what that's going to be. But I also love that it's not permanent. I mean, but maybe it's as immortal as we ever might be, is to get our thoughts and out there for generations to come. I mean, you think about the books that you're still reading that were written centuries ago,
Yeah.
and they're still relevant and interesting, and they still touch you. And Charles Dickens has been dead a very long time, and his books are still impacting the world. It's an amazing thing, actually. Once I was reading through the Gospels and they had the list of all the disciples there, and you think, okay, can you name all 12 disciples, first of all, besides the ones that are obvious? And you're like, I don't know who's Bartholomew and who's Nathaniel. And I said, Lord, why don't I know these guys? Like, what about these guys? Why don't I know them? Why don't I know their stories? And he said, well, they never wrote it down.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. It's true. There's something permanent about the written word, even in
Yeah.
today's non-permanent environment. So
Hmm.
important. And I think knowing that your voice and your journey, your individual, unique journey, is just as viable and just as important as the next guy,
Hmm.
and allowing God to just work through you in your very individual, specific, like you say, science fiction just comes out of you. It's what you write
Hmm.
because it's who you are, and He knows that. So I love that.
Yeah.
Love
Except for
that.
one contemporary middle grade novel that I also wrote.
You're,
See, and that's the thing. There's always exceptions and,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you
but
can still write poetry if you want.
oh, I could.
It's still
Could.
in you. I bet you will. Every now and then, it's like there's nothing quite like a good poem to
Oh, yeah.
express what you're feeling or thinking about things.
That's
So,
true.
yeah, you got a children's book coming out. You've got book two. Is it going to be called Eon City or
Yeah, it'll be so this one is Eon City Burnout, and oh gosh, what did we decide on? I can't quite remember, but it'll be Eon City. Oh, I think it's Afterburn.
something like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
something like that.
So, where can our listeners find your book?
Eon City Burnout, it's available on Amazon, and that's probably the best place to find it right at this moment. Otherwise, if you're local in the Seattle, Washington area, at the next Northwest Christian Writers Association meeting, I'm going to have copies of it there.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Very good. Well, look it up, guys. It's a really fun read. It's different than most things that you've probably been reading recently. It's not my genre that I normally pick up, but I had a great time reading it, and I really enjoyed all the variety. I mean, there's variety, but it was a very consistent through line of both quality, and the world that you'd built was clear that you guys were clear on what that was, and it's very enjoyable. So go out and pick it up. I got mine on my Kindle. So I still got it on my phone, take it with me wherever I go. Anything else you want to add, Tina, before we wrap this up?
Just want to encourage just that whole stepping out in faith. If this is what God has called you to do, yes, there's going to be obstacles, but just don't be afraid. Go for it. One foot in front of the other, one step at a time, and let God do the leading along the way.
Yeah, that's a very good place to wrap this up. So God told you to write a book. Now what? Take the next step. That's the now what. So I sure was glad to have you, Tina. It's been a joy getting to know you a little better and hearing about your journey along the way.
Yeah, thank you, Wendy.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Thanks for listening. I sure love and appreciate you. Shalom, shalom.